Hello and welcome to the brand new season of Aquatic Temptations. On tonight's first episode I'm going to be talking to you about setting up and creating that perfect aquarium at home, and hopefully with my help I might help you do some new tricks and tips on how to set it up. So let's get started. So it's hard to imagine where fish tanks come from. Fish tanks, you might think, oh yeah, they're a glass fish tank and they came out of someone's house. You know, someone made them, a glazier or something. Planning for tonight, I did a bit of research and I found that fish tanks actually originated in the 1800s, early 1800s in Asia. And would you believe the very first fish tank ever made was made out of porcelain? That was the very first fish tank was ever made was out of porcelain. Then what they did is they then thought, we could make this look even better. And what the Asians then went on to do, and they actually made them out of limestone, and then they cut the limestone and they put in, I'm assuming they had some sort of glass back then, and they put glass in the front panel so they could see into it. And then many years later, I think that seemed, what I can read is that seemed to go on for quite a few years, and then Europe picked it up, as Europe does, and Europe picked it up and they actually had scientists that were doing research, and they started researching the aquariums that we know now was developed by researchers seeing how long they could keep living animals alive in a cavity of water with no filtration, no heat, no nothing, just in a cavity of water. And this is around about 1850s. And then researchers finally started getting it. They started understanding the importance of ecosystems and biological activity. A woman, a scientist, actually developed the very first marine saltwater captive habitat, and she was quite successful at doing that. So saltwater was one of the very first aquariums, if you want to put it, that was ever actually developed. So we're talking centuries of keeping fish and aquatic life in captivity. And many years later, another scientist, a male scientist, actually created a freshwater environment out of a plastic drum, and he was able to successfully sustain eelgrass and other organisms in that container for quite a long time. And what his research actually told him was that living plants, natural living plants, was enough, created enough oxygen for those fish and that to actually survive. And then from there we actually progress into a glass fish tank that we do today. So glass fish tanks are relatively new. They're not an old concept, and they were actually originated for research, scientific purposes. So it wasn't just pleasure that we do today. Mind you though, fish tanks are a big part of research, especially microorganisms, marine biology and that sort of thing. So what do you do about research? Research is obviously a big part. When you're setting up a fish tank, you don't just go out and buy a fish tank and put everything in it, and you don't research, and that's a big part that we should be doing. We need to be researching what an environment the fish that we want to put in there likes, what they need. If you're putting in saltwater fish, then you don't put them in freshwater. You need to make salt water. If you're using saltwater fish, you need to make sure that you've got all the equipment, because there's a lot to salt water. If you're using freshwater, you need to work out whether they are a warm fish or a cold fish, whether they can be kept with other fish or whether they have to be kept alone. So research is a really, really, really big part of setting up a fish tank, and you need to do your research before you do anything at all. Now, choosing the right equipment will also come into research, and while you're researching you can actually do some research on equipment as well that you're going to need. Choosing the right equipment can be simple as going to a local shop. Like myself here at Shrimp Lovers, you can come in and see us and I can give you help on working out what the litre of your tank is, and then working out what equipment you're going to need. Next, you're going to really want to choose your fish. You're going to want to choose what fish you're going to want, what you want to put in your fish tank, whether you're going to have marine, freshwater, or whether you're wanting to have a planted tank with no fish, or whether you might even want a little nano tank with shrimp. So by working out all of these things first, you can work out what size tank you're going to have, what size fish tank that you're going to need, whether you need a short one, a long one, a small one. You're going to work out whether you need to have it filtered, heated, whether you're going to need lights. If you have plants, then you'll need lights. If you don't want plants, you don't need a light. Okay, and then you're going to want to research habitat, and habitat comes into working out what sort of plants. So for example, you're going to have a cichlid tank from Lake Malawi. There really isn't a lot of plants that you're going to want to put in that tank. So you won't buy plants, you're going to buy rocks, and you're going to buy items of equipment that represent that natural environment. So once again, research. You've got to research, otherwise what are you doing? You're just creating a glass fish tank with water in it and a few fish, and your success rate will probably be very low. So you've researched on what you're going to put in there. Now you're going to research about how you want it to look like, and this is the design part. So you want to design the fish tank, and you want to work out what you're going to put in there and how it's going to look. Doing all this, once again, you're researching. So you're going to research a natural environment. So let's say you like the look of an Amazon River. So you want to research Amazon River, you want to look for local native plants that are in the Amazon River. You're going to want to research habitat, so whether the water is saline, so whether it's got salt in it, whether it's got lots of tannins, so it's a very black water, whether it's crystal clear, whether it's got lots of wood, rocks, leaves, all those sorts of things. You want to plan, because if you can recreate that environment in your fish tank, you very well may have them breed. And to an aquarium hobbyist, fish breeding is the pinnacle achievement. So now some tricks and tips that I have for you at home is you need to research. You really need to research. Don't rush, buying all your equipment. Don't rush, think, oh, there's a sale on down the road, so I'm going to go buy everything this weekend because there's a sale. It sort of doesn't work. You can save $10 here and then you'll have to go and spend another $50 because you didn't get the right stuff. So research is a big part. Also, talking to other people. So coming into the shop here, coming into your local aquarium shop, wherever you are, and talking to the local people there as well. Also, of course, doing lots of research yourself on the internet, and also looking at magazines and books. You'll get a lot of inspiration from them as well. And I suppose my last tip to anybody setting up an aquascape or fish tank is less is more. You want to create an environment where the fish and the plants work harmoniously. You don't want a tank that's just chock-a-block full of rocks and wood, or you don't want a tank that's got nothing with just fish. It sort of doesn't work, and that's what you do with research. Now, maintenance and upkeep, you want to make sure that you're water changing the fish tank, because if you don't water change, what will happen is all those nutrients and the nitrates that the fish produce in the biocycle break down will stay in the water. So simply by topping up a fish tank that's got evaporation is not good enough, because all those nitrates and organics basically get concentrated, and then you fill it back up again with water, and you're not removing them. They're still all in there. They're not as concentrated, but they're still all in there. So you literally need to take the water out and put fresh, clean water back in. All of this is quite self-explanatory if you do your research, because your research will tell you what sort of water these fish naturally live in. If they live in stagnant water, well, then you don't put a filter in there. If they live in fast-flowing water, you put a big, heavy filter in there. And dealing with problems is very crucial. You need to, first of all, don't ever walk into a pet shop and ask them what's wrong with my fish, because they'll tell you, what a stupid question, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, I don't have scientific experience. What you need to do is you need to do some research. So take a photo of what the fish looks like and Google it, fish diseases. And often they'll have images on there of what different diseases are. Try and find one that you think closely matches what the images show, and if you can, print it out and then take that into your local shop, because what they will then do is they will then say, okay, if that's what you think it is, here's the medication, or here's the treatment, here's how you can fix it. Okay, so it's quite easy if you do your research, and that's where you've got to start. You've got to start with research. So thank you very much for joining us tonight on this brand new episode of Aquatic Temptations. And please don't forget, if you would like to visit us here at the store, we're located in Toowoomba at Shop Ford 255 Harry Street. If you would like to see us on the website, just go to shrimplovers.com.au. All of our products in the shop are on our website, and you can purchase them online. At the moment we have a flat rate of $20 Australia-wide for shipping, and for most metropolitan areas that's overnight. So thank you very much for joining us, and until next time, take care. Bye-bye.